so you're not doing it based on what you have here with you. If you look at the schedule for things that are happening in February, my inclination is to think, and I really respect you, Maureen, because you talked about what legislations may be considered in 2016, for us to meet sometime in January, if we can, or early February. Now, you'll recall we tried to do that last year, and Mother Nature did not cooperate on several different occasions. So obviously, we'll have to be a little flexible. So if that's acceptable to you, why don't we think about meeting by the end of January, first week of February? Does that sound like a reasonable time frame? And if he sends out a document, you can look at that.
Well, and another option, depending on what we need to get done, is if this NEI Virginia Nuclear Conference
So
is
that's
to
what I
go,
would do too, yeah.
then the piggyback on top of that would make a lot of sense.
Well, that would be my
Like that's
preference.
later February or March, is what it sounds
Is
like.
it February, March?
But I think he said he still wanted to do it
Well,
before the
I
Public
mean,
General Assembly
the
was in
idea is
session.
to do it during while they're in session, but we'll see whether we have time to do.
So I guess it depends on what other business we have and what timetable we might have on that, but clearly I would think that would be a convenient time.
Mhm.
I don't know what else.
Do we have anything we have to do in January? I'm not aware of anything.
No, I mean, once we're done with the annual report, kind of calendar hits reset for us when it comes to our statutory obligations.
Yeah, and so why don't we then see if we can plan it around this, because at that meeting, we'll have to, one, elect new officers for 2016 and on. We'll also have to establish a few things that are going, there's going to be some things that come out of what's going on nationally and in other states that I think are going to inform some of the things as the Commonwealth that we might want to do to preclude some of those happening here. And I'm not going to share all those, but I do think that's something we should consider. And waiting till February may be a good thing. Maybe even the end of February, first part of March. So why don't we propose then to wait on the dates until we find out when the NEI Consortium Virginia Nuclear Energy meeting is going to be, and plan around that so we can attend that if we so desire. Does that sound reasonable, members of the board?
And there is I'm not sure if the date is in February, but I think it is. There's a possible conflict. The Virginia Energy and Sustainability Conference that the Chamber puts together for the governors. And the governor usually is a keynote speaker there. We can find that date, I think. Maybe somebody can do it on their phone right
And then on
now.
the other thing, I don't know who is in charge of organizing that conference, but maybe somebody representing the BNEC authority and or the consortium should perhaps try to get in the agenda or
Try to work
in
with
the
them
program,
on-
yeah.
yeah.
Do you know what that date
Mhm.
is?
I do not off the top of my head. I thought there was a mention of it in here. What is the conference called?
I think it's called the Virginia
governors.
Energy and Sustainability Conference.
Yeah, the governors and everything something like that.
20, that's be 26.
Was organized by the Chamber last year. I think they still are the organizing group.
So
That's not till April.
I was gonna say,
Oh,
it
no,
only
that's
has
last
the
year.
2015 date, but that was April 14th
Yeah.
of last year. It doesn't look like there's a 2016 date yet.
Okay. How about Environment Virginia? Google that one. That's not in
Most of
Richmond,
April,
that's in
that's
Lexington.
generally second week in
Is that April?
That's the
Oh, that's the
VMI.
VMI one, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, never mind, unnecessary caution sign.
Not a problem, sir. Appreciate
No.
your comment. Maybe that'll inform our second meeting.
Right, but I mean, but regardless, I guess this is a good reminder that I don't know, but I suspect that somebody is already starting to work on the organization of that conference. So perhaps it would be better to, get in touch with them sooner rather than later to see whether, if they are going to have sessions on nuclear, perhaps BNEC or BNEC or both want to help them. I don't know, but this may be a good time.
Yeah, Chris, actually, you're very well positioned to do that outreach for us.
Sure.
Generally, Environment Virginia works with the Secretary of Natural Resources office. They have a large committee from all over Virginia that puts together the agenda, but usually the Secretary's office has
Sure.
some input. And the Secretary, my recollection is we handled the energy conference with the Chamber
Yeah,
through the
Chamber.
Secretary of Commerce and Trade.
Okay.
And it was also through Natural Resources, because that's where I sat, but I'm guessing it landed in Commerce and Trade,
Mhm.
because that's where the energy
Sure.
activity is, isn't it?
Yeah, Train was the corporate sponsor and organizer, but I believe the chamber now is in that role. But I guess it's under Secretary Thompson.
Sounds like a much
Yeah.
smaller, quieter.
And Environment Virginia is using a different process this year. They're soliciting
At last.
proposals
Oh.
Yeah.
for,
That was like 2 months ago.
yeah, I don't know how long they're doing that, but usually we're very well aware that they reach out to us and others and ask us if we'll join various planning committees.
Right, they're not.
They haven't done it, maybe they don't like being in the
Then,
meeting.
well, I was gonna say, then who is they? Because they was that big committee of like 45 people.
Yeah. We received a solicitation for presentations and exhibits. And you had to put a concept paper, couple-page
Yeah.
concept paper.
And it
concept
came
paper.
from the folks at BMI?
Yes, it came from
Interesting.
maybe the
Okay.
major,
Yeah.
I forget her name, he's been the organizer for a long time,
Right.
or has been involved in the organization. But in any case, we can make the introduction to the, right, find out who the people are to connect with, and then get back to this authority with that information for both of those conferences.
Great, I think it might be something we'd like to play a role in.
Mhm.
And
If this
should we
works
just
out.
send that to you?
Well, for
Chairman?
now, send it to Chris, and Chris will get it on the rest of us.
Yeah,
That's what I
it's
mean.
a
Who should
classic
Chris send it to?
Education.
To me for now.
Sure.
It's a classic education opportunity.
Yeah.
Yeah, anything we can do to, in my opinion, to leverage and to expand our role as far as people knowing who we, I don't mean what we actually are designed to do, but who we are and what we're doing, the more people know about that, the better, I think.
Well, and also just to educate on nuclear energy and,
You know,
its relevance to
does
these.
BMI have a program that addresses energy?
Oh, they have
They're
serious engineering programs.
But yeah, when it has engineering, I mean, I don't know exactly how many engineering programs they have, and they definitely have a nuclear engineering, if not a minor,
Right.
it's something.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
they
knew
have
they had
nuclear
engineering, I
energy,
just
I mean,
didn't
they
know
have
they
a
had-
lot of
Mechanical
former
engineering.
military, a lot of former
Mm.
military in
Right.
their faculty,
Oh.
and so
Yeah.
I'm sure there are a couple of nuclear
Oh,
engineers.
there's definitely,
teaching,
and I
so-
know we have a partnership with BMI, and every summer we get several cadets that spend the summer here at VCU doing research in
Very
many
strong.
things, some of them in nuclear engineering.
Yeah.
Perfect. Excellent, good. We'll take all these actions and
Sure.
let's make sure to show all the things we're going to be following.
Sure.
Thank you so much for this, sir. Really appreciate it.
I think one item for public comments.
I have one more for public comment too. In our last meeting minutes, and I want to make sure it's reflected, we had a presentation by Dr. Charlie Bowman that talked about innovations from nuclear in the nation's fuel cycle. And I went through that and, I shared that with some people. They found it very interesting. So I need to follow up with you to make sure that we get Dr. Bowman to come to a couple of A&S meetings to make this presentation. Some other people would like to see this. They would see what his basis is and explore it further. Second, you had also talked about, Dr. Putty, that you were going to give a number of different papers, if you will. And I wondered if you were able to share any of that, where you were going to give several abstracts on topics at future conferences. Is there any way we could?
I gave a couple of presentations in India. It was particularly on the Thorcon is a company that is in Florida, and they outreached me because I was going there.
Perfect.
I gave a presentation for them. I can send it around.
Would you mind?
Oh, yeah.
I know I'd be interested, and I'm sure your other members of the board would
Yeah,
be
sure. I
interested
can
too.
send those two presentations.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
I appreciate it so
So
much.
I know related to that, I mean, Charles Bowman and others, they actually did have several papers at the embedded topical and accelerator driven systems at the last ANS meeting in November.
The local section,
No.
Oh,
At
that
the-
one, that-
yeah, the
At
ANS
the,
meeting.
at the embedded topical, so this was, I don't know if you know, but this was a major international embedded topical at the ANS meeting in November, so in DC. So those papers were there, so they are well known to the accelerator-driven systems community within ANS.
Well, some folks that were asking me about it must not have attended that, and so therefore they weren't
Right.
aware of it.
Right.
Unfortunately, Charlie couldn't be there to
Yeah.
present it.
So I just want to make sure that kind of beneficial information gets out to everybody. Thank you, Ms. Sama, for that. You had another topic?
Just one reminder, I know I've included in emails, but if you have not done your COIA filing, it is due tomorrow. So please go ahead and do that. If there's some issue, I know some folks have had trouble logging into the system because they're changing the electronic filing system right now, so it's been a little bit of a headache, but if there are problems, please let me know immediately. I can get the passwords reset, accounts reset, and send out again, but those filings are due tomorrow. Pretty quick and painless to do, but the deadline is here.
And do you have a list of who's done it?
I do not have that list on me. Evie Christopher from our office is kind of been running point on that. I can check and reach out specifically to people.
Yeah, I think I did it, but I want to make sure your site
Yeah.
sees that.
Sure.
Yeah, I
And
think
as
you
to
might
why.
wanna do that, because sometimes when we get, please do this, it's, oh, okay. But when you say, hey, Sama, do this, oh, okay, okay.
All right.
Starting next year, there's a $250 penalty for filing late,
Yeah,
not this
You
year.
can see that expense voucher.
yeah. So-
Okay, so is that penalty exist whether you filed on time and the system failed to recognize it, or
That's a question for the lawyers.
don't you know?
Take
But,
it out of our
yeah,
salary.
can you this afternoon, given the fact that it's due tomorrow, advise all of us, audition?
Sure.
That ours has been accepted or not? Because I know mine was sent weeks ago, but I don't know how to confirm that you all have it.
Sure, I will double check for everyone's names on there and reach out to each of you individually.
And what is the since there's not a finding, what's the consequences of us not sending that? I mean, if you're on this board and you haven't filed that on time, is that disconcerting to the administration?
I believe so.
I don't think we need to explore that point.
Okay, good. Enough said. Okay,
Let's
so
just do it.
let's try to make sure that we're all in
It really is a
compliance.
very quick and painless process.
I believe that there is a public website where you can go
Okay.
to look up
There is.
your filings. And I don't know whether it's searchable. So whether, you could just click on it and search your name and find out if you're in there.
It's public.
Evie
Right.
is working.
I was just saying, I know Evie's been the one.
She's the coordinator of that, so she should have the names if there are any on this authority who have not. And of course, it applies to, if any of you are state employees, you should already have had to
We don't
file.
have that.
And you don't have to file twice
Yeah.
for both the authority and for your job.
Is there anybody here who's concerned that Chris needs to focus on to make sure he helps he or she make sure they do this in a timely manner? If so, talk to Chris offline. You don't need to tell all of us. Does anybody else have any other actions from the board they wish to discuss? Conapati, did you have some other things you wanted to go over, sir?
I think maybe, Chris, there is something we talked about. Is it here? We want to put it out or not?
So Ganapati and I had spoken kind of in terms of the recommendations for the energy report about specifically maybe addressing a point about exploring or supporting the exploration of thorium reactors or molten sand technology in Virginia. When we got into talking about the recommendations, it seemed like we wanted to take things at a much higher level than really drill down into that specificity, so I didn't bring it up. But that is on the table for discussion if anyone wants to explore that. Whether to include a bullet somewhere about that being, not a priority of the authority or an idea of the authority to explore in 2016, that really is up to the members. Working with Ganapati and a former member of the Commerce Department, who now works as a consultant, put together kind of a quick little paragraph that I can read out if we want to explore it, but again, that's at the discretion of the board members.
I think it's a bit too specific. It's much more operational. Speaking from my perspective, representing Ariva, we don't have any plans for thorium designs or salt designs. So for us, we'd want to push high temperature gas, for example, or advanced LWRs. So I think I'd rather not us get into that type of selecting which technology, but rather I think we would feel more comfortable if the authority supported the pursuit of advanced technologies and then stop from there. Because we could quickly start beginning to sort of favor our own designs and our own
Sure.
partnerships.
Which impacts different members differently.
Yeah, and but I think it's a good idea. So I'm trying to find a place where we say advanced designs as part of our recommendations, because that would include anything related to high temperature gas cooled reactors, molten salt, thorium, whatever it may be, any generation, what might be considered generation 4.
And from the perspective of a Virginia company that's growing its supply chain, and wants to continue to see the existence of the